Fox's Murder in a Small Town has returned for a second season, but the show's failure to truly land is only going to continue if the mystery series doesn't fix its biggest mistake. Based on the Albug and Cassandra books, the first season of the show was primed for success, with a great cast, recognizable guest stars, an award-winning book series as a jumping-off point, and the built-in fanbase that comes with it, and a partnership between Fox and Global that ensures viewership reach. However, the show met only middling success. Enough to warrant a second season, and to manage a respectable 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, but failing to hit the kind of ratings or popular buzz that have made other recent murder mysteries so huge. Only Murders in the Building, for example, is into its fifth season, with 7 primetime Emmys under its belt, while the Knives Out franchise premiered its third installment, Wake Up Dead Man, at TIFF, after the original film managed an Oscar nomination. It's easy to argue that streaming is responsible for the success of other murder mysteries, especially with network TV as a whole struggling to compete in Netflix's world. And while this may have an impact, it's not what keeps Murder in a Small Town from being a smash hit, it's the fact that the network show misses the point of the genre, and seems deeply confused about where it fits within it. The psychology of genre shows, and predictable procedurals, explained. Tommy with a knife to Devon's throat in Murder in a Small Town. On the surface, it may seem that the biggest failing of Murder in a Small Town is its predictability. The two-part finale of the first season was as obvious as they come, and no one watching could fail to tap Noah Reid's Mr. Cummings as the obvious serial killer from his first scenes. However, predictability is actually the point of genre shows like this, from a psychological perspective. Genre shows, whether a murder mystery or a medical procedural, all play on the comforting power of predictability. The standard format, the knowledge of what is coming next, and the awareness that the killer always gets caught, or the disease diagnosed, provide a sense of order and relief from constant anxiety and decision fatigue in an increasingly stressful and chaotic world. In a 2023 interview, via Friday's Things, clinical psychologist and clinical fellow in psychology at Harvard Medical School, Dr. Alexandra Gold, put it in beautifully simple terms: add to this self-soothing effect of predictable television the dopamine release that comes from figuring out a mystery just ahead of the reveal, which is exactly when all good murder mysteries should become obvious, and the mere exposure effect, the phenomenon of people liking something more due to familiarity, and it's easy to see why genre shows actually benefit from predictability. Murder in a Small Town has all the setup for a cozy mystery procedural, but doesn't lean into it. A close-up of Sid pursing his lips in Murder in a Small Town. The core issue with Fox's approach to Murder in a Small Town is that it seems to recognize that there is a clear setup for a formulaic, cozy, comforting murder mystery show, but wants to combine this with a more gritty crime drama style, which avoids predictability as a standard. In the process, it fails to do either style justice. The most obvious expectation for the show, based on the title alone, is that this will be a charming murder mystery. Small town mysteries where the librarian falls for the town cop and they team up to save the day are a dime a dozen, and for good reason. This is an absolutely classic premise, and Murder in a Small Town ticks every box, but the show quickly starts to veer off the rails. Rather than playing into the role of the gruff romantic hero, star Rossif Sutherland seems to be aiming more for a pensive and brooding crime lead, and the romance, that is a key element of this classic premise, falls flat as a result. The mysteries themselves are, if anything, almost too predictable, but it's the style that really throws things off. Rather than matching a murder, she wrote vibe, the cuts and lighting choices feel much more in line with a dark crime thriller. The drastic difference between the murder scenes and the small town moments is not a familiar juxtaposition, but a genuinely jarring choice in most episodes. The result is a stylistic mix that just doesn't work, and the worst part of it is that, despite the librarian and cop setup, the Albug and Cassandra books don't actually lend themselves to the sweet romance angle that the show seems to be aiming for, at least, aiming for about half of the time. Fox is missing the point of the books by trying to tap into cozy romance and procedural trends. Carl and Cass kissing on the beach in Murder in a Small Town, 1. It's easy to assume that the original book series centers the romance, if only because they are often referred to as the Albug and Cassandra mysteries. However, the first book in the series, The Suspect, won the Edgar Allan Poe Award, not for being a cozy romantic mystery, but for being a fascinating concept where the murderer is revealed in the opening chapter. The book itself has aged spectacularly poorly, and I would not recommend reading it, due to painfully homophobic language, but the core exploration of the aftermath of murder from a psychological standpoint is a truly brilliant one. The book does include a mystery, of course, but this is the mystery of the motivation and personal history of the murderer and his victim, not the identity of the murderer himself. Albug and Cassandra, meanwhile, serve more as a way to consider themes of justice and motive, rather than as a feet-kickingly cute romance. As the series continues, their relationship has its ups and downs, but the two are firmly together by the third book, and each installment takes a different approach to the genre. In the second book, the identity of the killer isn't known, and Cassandra is in a romantic relationship with a suspect. Here, her dynamic with Albert is about jealousy, but also about police assumptions and jumping to conclusions. The show includes nods to this. In the first episode, a conversation between Albert and Cassandra is lifted verbatim from the pages of the book, for example, but focuses overmuch on their budding relationship, and tries to make it cute enough to appeal to romance fans, which takes away from what it could actually have been. Season 2 could have saved the series, but continues to struggle with its own identity. Cassandra and Carl looking at someone off-screen in Murder in a Small Town Season 1. Image via Fox. What's most disappointing about the series is that if it simply picked a side, it would have everything necessary to be a huge hit. While more classic whodunits are obviously having a moment, dark psychological thrillers can be equally as popular. However, by attempting to be both, Murder in a Small Town fails to truly succeed as either. The show is too dark and gritty to really work as a comfort show, and it seems to be attempting to replicate the appeal of the books with a less formulaic approach, in some ways. Season 1 jumps around in approach, without the clear beats of a procedural from episode to episode, and Season 2 opens with the identity of a murderer seemingly revealed, although this is not, in fact, the case.